Welcome to A Scrap Life, a podcast solely focused on the hustlers, grinders, operators, and business owners who live and breathe the scrap metal industry every day. We are the original recyclers. No suits required, just guts and hard work. Here is your host, Brett Eckhart.
All right, guys, another Scrap Life podcast. I'm sitting here with a guy that I met not that long ago. It's kind of crazy. Once you kind of think you know a lot of people in the industry, then somebody introduces you to somebody else, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I didn't know a lot about you." But now, over the last probably couple of weeks, since we kind of had an introductory phone call, somebody that was one of your guys was down at Scrap Expo. Was that? I don't know if that was you, but some of your team was down there, and somebody introduced us via Jake Bronstein. So I'm sitting here today with Matt Freeze from Millbridge Metals out of Cincinnati, Ohio, if I remember right. And man, correct. Thanks for taking the time and coming in and sitting down and shooting the shit with me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
So who was all down at Scrap Expo, Matt?
Scrap Expo, I was down there, our CFO was down there, and then our general manager at the scrapyard was down there. So you, I believe, or Jake would have met with Chris Hendricks.
Okay. What'd you guys think of the Scrap Expo out of curiosity?
Oh, I liked it. I think that was one of the more beneficial conventions we've been to, because like it has a unique angle, I would say, where the other ones are really all about trading and networking. The Scrap Expo was more smaller, middle, some larger yard owners, and I really like the equipment piece of it, like to be able to go see everything set up, look at it in one place. I mean, we actually purchased some equipment while we were down there, and it's, super easy to make a decision because you can look at the three competitors of whatever particular item and walk to each one and be like, all right, well, this guy over here is offering this.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you better? Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I thought it was a really efficient way to get through it. And honestly, I think the panel, the panel of speakers was certainly one of the best lineups I've seen maybe ever. So
yeah, I thought, kudos to Jim Keefe, man, and that GIE media and their staff. I mean, you can tell they put a lot of effort into making the panel good. They put a lot of effort into making the equipment, set up, good and easy to kind of see and operate. And, there was a safety component that you felt comfortable walking around and being able to see and operate and do. And so I think there was, I was super impressed. This year I went to the first one last year and the difference and, just the additional people there, the addition in booth space and vendors, equipment, manufacturers, distributors there. If he has the ability to keep that thing going, and I haven't spoke to him yet, but I'm curious what his vision of that event looks like moving forward. I just think it hits a sweet spot. It hits a certain demographic really well, and that demographic being your small to medium sized operators. And I think because probably I have a soft spot for those individuals, because that's me, right? It's kind of like I like being around and looking at the equipment and talking to people that are their hands are dirty, running their they're running their business, and that's just something I have a super strong appreciation for. So
yeah, I agree.
I did like that event.
I agree. And just being able to have conversations with those smaller and mid-level guys about one of the simple things I brought away from it, I was talking to people what is some of the stupid little things you do to drive retail traffic? And, some people are like, well, set up a simple little card table and get a big thing of coffee and, styrofoam cups in the scale house. And, it's super cheap. It's not really much of an expense. And it's something you just do and everyone appreciates it. So we implemented that. All our customers and employees love it. And it didn't really cost any money. And it's one of those things you're like, Oh, well, duh. Probably should have did that.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
like,
mean,
it's all little things like that that I kind of like to hear about from other people.
well, I always say like I don't invent anything, right? I just travel around, I look at what people are doing, or I get on the internet and I just Google and I because I'm just a junkie that way. And so I'll just start looking at how other people are doing things. And then is that something I can implement? Is that something I can take like a form of it and implement into my business? I mean, there's just so much, it's a wealth of information out there if you're willing to search for it and you're willing to kind of open your mind and say, hey, how could I fit this in and use it to my, my advantage? And I've really found that as I've traveled around. I've visited a lot of scrapyards over the years. I've kind of made a mission of mine next year to get to one in every state. So we're going to see if I can get that done. But the biggest thing, I get so much value out of it because I get to like see what people are doing, and everybody's doing it different. Like that's what's awesome. Like everybody has their own twist to the formula. Like everybody has their own Coca-Cola recipe, and there's none that are the same. It's just what is it works for you in your geography, with your people, with your equipment, with your capital availability, and then it's like just one big cake mixed up, and you're trying to bake your own.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Plus, scrap yards always have this stigma of like super top secretive like mindsets. No one's allowed to know what you're paying, what you're doing, who your customers are. But it's kind of funny in that type of environment, anyone you meet with and talk to, including myself, it's like more than happy to share. It's like I feel like everyone's like kind of there to like help each other out a little bit. Like, you're not really there to compete. You're there to like,
who your competitors are. Like,
correct.
At the end of the day, like I know who I'm competing against every day. And it's really in the whole grand scheme of things, it's like 3 people, right? Or whatever. Like it's not that
it's
many.
Usually one,
and
like
most of them I try and keep a good enough relationship with that it's not we're not trying to cut each other's necks, but we're still competing. We still want the same business. We still are trying to drive growth in our businesses. But I've come to realize over the years, your willingness and your ability just to show people how you're doing things and talk them through it and help them you may not see the benefit today, but a year from now, 2, 5, like it's gonna come. Karma's real, right? It comes around, and you don't know when it's going to show its face. You just hope that you're on the right side of it because you've done right by people,
Yeah, it's coming, good or bad, I guess.
Yeah.
You want it to be good.
So I was telling you earlier, one of my reasons why I do this podcast is I love talking to people that are living, a similar life to me, in the fact that they're in the same industry, and we all came about in a different way. But I love giving people the opportunity to tell their story and then kind of diving into it and saying, how'd you get here? What's going on? Like what's coming down the road? So I thought you had it, when we met, a couple of weeks ago, you had as unique of a story as I had. You kind of reverse engineered a little bit into the business.
Little bit.
I'm sure you're not the first one to do it your way, but it's still somewhat unique in the fact that most people kind of start off with a more traditional yard and then work into the brokerage side. So I wanted to kind of say, hey, let's talk about it, man. Give me the Cliff Notes version of how you got to how you found your way into this business.
Well, I probably started like most people who don't have like multi-generational businesses, where kind of fell into it. Like third cousin of my wife's have been in the business for many generations, and they have that same typical story where great grandfather migrated here to the East Coast. He was recycling rags and picking up metal with a little push cart and all that. And then, fast forward 100 years, they've got this massive, monstrous, thriving business. And anyway, I was out of college and they were opening a retail scrapyard. and I knew nothing about scrap. All I knew about scrap metal was like, oh, like, that industry where, people steal your converters. Like that, that's kind of like just like your
the
basic
typical, like what a lot of people think of when they think about scrap.
Yeah, like no one really thinks about like the vastness of the industry and how massive it is. But anyway, I didn't have anything to do, and they're like, you should come on board and check out this retail yard, see if you like it. And I was like, yeah, why not? I'm not doing anything. So went in there and opened it, and it was I like instantaneously loved it, because it was kind of like, it's kind of like the Wild West of businesses. Like, I mean, anyone who comes in, you're shooting the shit with. It's every customer from, peddlers up to, really well buttoned up manufacturers. And on the retail side is, really learn, I think, just all the little ins and outs of the retail business. So like, starting out sweeping floors and unloading trucks and driving forklifts. I love that aspect of like the physicality of the industry.
You got to kind of love a little bit of dirt, right? And grease.
Yes.
Like there has to be a component of you that as a kid, you were the kid in the sandbox with the dump truck and you liked to play in the backyard, or you like to be outside, or is somewhat in the grind,
Yeah, and it's not, it's not a business that's like, making a widget and you're just repeating the same process over and over. It's like, it's so true in the sense that like every transaction is unique. I mean, it really is. Nothing comes in perfectly, which is funny. I'll get into this later when I got into sales, the big disconnect between sales and operations. But yeah, no. So like, processing, and we were slow in the beginning. So like, I'm taking like brass valves and a little alligator shear and like breaking them down and cleaning it. Like, you're looking at the difference between red and yellow, die cast and cast, and, you're touching and feeling everything, boxed in it, getting it ready for outbound sales and all that. Running the scale, and then just did that for a couple years, and I was really ready to step up to the to the big leagues in the commercial yard. And at the time there were some older scrap buyers. The two guys who were working there for decades were approaching retirement, and I kind of noticed.
How old were you at this time? When you started getting trained by them?
I was probably about 30.
Okay.
No. I was about 25. Sorry. When I started getting trained by them, I'd say I was 27, actually.
Okay.
So that's when, talked to the owner, and I was like, I really want, like, I like to talk to people. I'd love to just get out there and see if I can do any good, bringing in material to the yard. And so rode around with those guys, which was a hilarious experience in itself. And, I won't get into the millions of stories, but I will tell you one account we went into. He's like, hey, I'm going to stop by here. I call on this guy. I've called on him once a week for the last 7 years. And I was like, Jesus, you literally walk in there once a week for 7. So we go in there, and we walk in. This guy's pretty elderly at the time, so he's really slow moving or whatever. We walk in, I see this guy literally like get down underneath the desk, and he's like, hey, is Evan here? And there she's like, no, Evan's gone or whatever. And I was sitting there like, I was like, what the fuck? And so like we ended up leaving. I didn't have the heart to tell him. Anyway, long story short, when I was on my own, I pulled back in there and I was like, can you tell Evan I will not stop by once a week for the last 7 years? And he got out from under his desk. He's like, okay. Sit down, we'll talk. I ended up, long stories, like picking up the account, but we had like laughs about that. But not to get off track, you just meeting with all the different manufacturers.
But how much, really quick, just because how much did those old guys teach you though?
Oh yeah, a tremendous amount.
So I have a similar experience. Like when I graduated college, I came back home to work, and I did everything. We did a big demo job right out the gate, and then I did I ran the scale, I ran the office, and then I kind of got a year into that, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get out on the road. And we had a guy, his name was Greg Brown, and Greg Brown was from the glass manufacturing industry years and years ago. Super smart guy, but he was an older guy. He had retired from the glass industry, and my dad had hired him. So he had already been retired. So he was like probably at that time like early 60s, and but he had like been working for my dad while I was in college. He was there on the commercial on the buy side. He was just a talker, man. That guy talked to you about anything all day long, and he pretty much helped me cut my teeth like as a buyer. Like that's what he kind of showed me the ropes. I spent a lot of time with that old man, and he taught me a lot. You know, I mean, here I grew up in the business. Like I grew up around this my whole life, and he still taught me just a gigantic amount of just how to talk to people, how to, how to manage the account, how to, schmooze people. And so my hat goes off to that guy. So when you started telling me that story, it kind of reminded me of how I did the same thing.
Yeah. No, so that was invaluable riding around with those guys for 6-8 months, something like that. And then hit the ground running. And I was like, when I got onto the commercial side, that's where you really see the the vastness I was talking about earlier, like the tangible scrap that you're selling. So if a company's doing a couple $100 million in sales, like that translates to an obscene amount of scrap. So just watching grapples, like stuffing, rail cars and trailers, like I could stare at that all day long. So
versus individual valves of brass
versus a bag of cans.
It takes all kinds to make our world go round. So like
chewing the streetwalker girls.
It takes the big guys, the big accounts, all the way down to the individual, grass. So I went elephant hunting is what I called it. And so I wanted the biggest accounts on the planet. So I mean, I just basically kind of adopted the Marshall Rosen technique, was who the old guy who taught me what I know. And like, I was very polite and courteous, but I was like, I showed my face like consistently for years at a lot of these places. And then eventually somebody's going to drop the ball. And it's like, well, this guy's got to be reliable. He won't stop knocking on my door. So eventually, you get in, you get conversations, and, anyway, long story, I did have success, on this mill buying side, scrap buying side. So did that for like 8 years. For that same company that you started with, right?
Yeah, I did go over to a non-ferrous place for a year. But that was, that felt more like kind of the retail style operation, which, I was just more on that, like, I remember when I landed my first like tier 1 OEM, it was a 24/7 operation. I mean, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, like I would sleep in my car at that parking lot just to make sure. Cause like if the boxes fill up and you don't switch them, the whole press line shut down. I mean, it's crazy. So like in the beginning, I'm sitting there, I'm just walking for like, to like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, like making sure we're switching everything out right and everything. So I think, I had good success because I truly did care about like, taking care of our customers.
And on a little side note, one thing people kind of forget about those big accounts, like those big customers, like it's one thing to chase them. I always think it's like hunting big game, right? Like let's say you get your shot and you take them down. It's now the real work begins, right? It's not the chase and the hunt is like, to be honest, like that's kind of the fun part, like in my opinion. But the dressing the animal, right? Like getting that thing skinned and making it into a meal like that you can eat there's a whole host of steps and a whole host of capital investment that goes along with that too, that people kind of forget, like the boxes, the trailers, the drivers, the commitment to the service, the 24/7 operation. I mean, you want to really go through it on those larger accounts. I mean, that's not for everybody. You know,
No,
not
That's
everybody.
like,
It's a very select few people that can actually service those effectively and efficiently.
yeah, it was a good learning experience to do that with a bigger company at first, because I mean, again, it wasn't easy, even when you're used to handling accounts like that. So, because like
Yeah.
everyone's different, and like when you're handling an account of like those sizes, no one's calling you for switch outs.
What was
No
your
one's gonna.
strategy for, I mean, what did you implement that you feel that you could share that kind of enabled you to service those and keep those accounts once you're actually able to take them down?
I would say, I mean, for me, I just remain highly involved for the first, I would say, 6 months on the operations side. Because you're the one setting up the account, you're talking to everyone, you're doing all the plant tours, you're meeting with the plant managers, all the way down to, whoever's managing the scrap bays. Um, None of your truck drivers have gone through that like long, sometime 5-year process,
Yeah.
sometimes a lot quicker, sometimes not. And yeah, communicating that with the operations team and the drivers is like, that's paramount. And then I think being present like through that process is also paramount, because inevitably there's going to be some growing pains and some issues transitioning those accounts. But
Yeah.
if you're there and in good communication with both sides of, the servicing of it, I think it usually will run a lot smoother.
You mentioned that in the notes we were talking about, your differentiator as a company is basically your burning desire to take care of the customer, right? And I think that that's kind of transitioned to your team, and whether that comes from you or some other leaders within your team, that's shit can't be fake. You can fake it for a month, but you can't fake it for 3 years, right? And I think you mentioned that, and I think that to me is a big part of it. And you kind of alluded to it there towards the end, that is kind of one of your big differentiators, right?
Yeah, totally. I think like, like I genuinely care about these people. You end up dealing with someone so much. I mean, you have
Yeah.
no choice but to learn a lot about each other. You eventually like, you have a connection, more on a personal level than just on a business level. And, you don't like, for me, like, yeah, I don't want anything to go wrong, but like inevitably, like most businesses, especially in scrap, there's going to be things that come up, and different deals and stuff like that. We've got several customers, numerous times we've done things. We don't make a dime, but it really helps them out,
Yeah.
and we're okay doing that.
I think if you communicate with your customer too, and the reason I want to bring this up, one of the other reasons I like doing this podcast is to hopefully give somebody some value as they listen to it, to take back to their business. But I think if you communicate with your customer openly out the gate and you say, hey, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be some things go wrong. What I need you to do is keep me in the loop, and I need you to help me identify those early, and then let me work through them with you, because that's how we're going to be good a year from now, right? And that's how we're going to be able to beat anybody on the service end, is if you allow me to work through the mistakes. As long as you know I'm not here to screw you, I'm not taking weight, I'm going to pay you the price I quoted you, but there's going to be some miscommunication. There's going to be this. And if we treat those like an opportunity to get better versus like us not doing our job, or vice versa. Now, if it happens over and over again, then we got a problem, right? But if it's a nuanced, if it's a new customer, a new relationship, allow me the bandwidth to make it right, and allow me the bandwidth, my team, to learn. And I promise you, it's like a marriage. Like that first year, you're just kind of learning how to fight, like to where you can kind of agree to disagree. But once you kind of get over that hump, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to have tough conversations, because both of you are in it for the right reason. And I think that's what I've had a lot of success with, on the customer side. It's like, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make a mistake. I just need to know about it so we can work through it together. And you'll realize I'm really here for both sides to win.
Sure. Well, yeah, and I mean, I think remaining like, extremely visible in the transition process, because, a lot of times, by the time an issue makes its way to upper management, like a lot of damage has been done, I would say. So like,
Yeah.
dealing with all levels through of employees through that different company is important for me. So,
That makes
like
sense too.
if we land a big account, I don't just communicate with like the purchasing agent, or the owner or the CFO or whoever. Like I try to get to know all of them, and then I try to, really get to know everyone below that, because
Yeah.
like those are the guys, if something's happening, they catch it first. And if they call you instead of someone else,
Then you
like,
gotta
because by
find
the time
Jen.
you hear it, it could be 3 days later, could even be 2 hours later. But, like time is pretty critical in
Yeah.
a lot of scenarios. So, yeah, I think,
So let's kind of, so you're handling, buying, purchasing agent for the bigger company, right?
yeah.
Knocking down, elephant hunting, if you will. So what's the next step?
Well, so after that, I'll fast forward a little bit. The guy I worked for many years, he passed away, and their kids took it over, and I'll leave it there. But I will say, they were looking to sell to a like larger, millback group, which is fine. But at that time, I really wasn't interested in falling into like kind of that more corporate structure.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love the ideas of just meetings to have meetings, and I was kind of a run and gunner. And throughout the years, I've been pretty entrepreneurial myself anyway. I'd started some businesses in the past. They didn't perform that great, different industries, and it's been in the back of my mind forever, all throughout the time working there. Like, God, I'd love to start my own deal.
Yeah.
And so, that was like an interesting window of opportunity. And, at that age, at that time, we had our daughter, we had a young girl at the time. It's getting increasingly difficult to go make some big risky move and lay it all on the line. But, talk to my wife about it. And we decided like this would be probably like one shot, because as you get older, if you have more kids, blah, 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 it's harder to do, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we decided to do it. And, one of the biggest issues was, I didn't have any money. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
So,
So that creates a problem. Was your wife working?
she was a commercial real estate, leasing agent.
Okay.
And,
So you had to have somebody had to have an income, right?
yes, yes. And that was pre-08. So that's industry was pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyway, we decided to go for it. I think I had 140,000 or something in my 401k. So we just emptied it. And that was painful because it turned into like 80 or something with
Yeah.
taxes and penalties and all that. And then it was like, okay, here's 80. My wife's like, all right, you get 1 year. If there's
Yeah.
nothing left, like we got to really get back on track here. So,
Well, good
so
for her
yeah,
for giving you a shot. I will say, like that's a good woman to just say, all right, you got a year, let's go, right?
yeah,
All
yeah.
right,
So,
go.
decided to try it. It was just me. Um, I knew how to buy a scrap. I wasn't sure what to do with it at the time, but I was like, I know if I could acquire and control the flow of a decent quantity of scrap metal, I will find homes for it. It inevitably would be profitable. So that was kind of my focus. So I started just power dialing people and hammering doors. And, within 3 months, my wife's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant again," and I was like, "Oh, Jesus!" So so really, really a lot more motivation, fuel on
Yeah,
the fire to keep driving the ball down the field. And the first year it was didn't make a lot of money, but it was essential because when you talk from a sales standpoint about like filling the funnel and all that, I mean, I probably
yeah,
had, 50 or 60 active, like legitimate opportunities on the table. So I
So
knew,
can I
like,
ask a more of a technical question? So when you start that first year and you're calling people and saying you're trying to basically essentially acquire their scrap, right?
mm-hmm.
How are you servicing the account when you don't
So
have trucks and roll-offs and
so
for anybody out there with that question?
there's the big balancing act right there. So essentially I had to partner with a large yard in town.
Okay.
And, once I had, a good solid handful of accounts, I was pretty sure I could certainly land. That's when I had a conversation with somebody and they decided to, essentially back me as like almost like this hybrid broker at like this, the unprepared buying level. So
Yeah.
that was like, okay, fine, we'll give you the cost for the trucks. You can use our equipment. Obviously, everything goes back them. So like, they had to pay a little more than they probably normally did for material, but you know,
They were getting more material.
I was going to bring you material you're not currently getting. I'm obviously not going to go call on your accounts and ask
100%.
you to buy it back from me. So yeah, it started working. We grew really quickly, and through the middle of year 2, I was like, shit was starting to really explode. So, and then I was a total disaster because I don't have an accounting background. I'm not like an admin guy, so like keeping up with that side of it was really difficult. And in order to really go from there, had to figure that piece of it out. So that's where a good friend of mine, wife, moved back from Chicago, and her husband was looking for something to do. And, we kind of hit it off. And, he was intrigued with what I was doing at the time. And, one conversation led to another. And then essentially, I was like, you need to come on board and work with me. I can't pay you anything, but it's like, here's what I could offer. I was like, if you believe in like the future and me, whatever, come on board, work for free, help me stay organized. And, you can have equity in the business after that year is kind of how we did it. So, year 2 was our big growth year. And, we've, starting from zero, we've really been on a pretty aggressive trajectory since day one. But after that first or second year, he came in and took, like, I'll give you a quick little example of like, how this was a very pivotal point in the starting out of our company. He comes into our office like day one. He's like, all right, where do I get started? I was like, I don't know, look around, see what let's start there. He starts opening drawers. He looks in my top drawer and he finds like 4 checks. And he's like, why aren't you cashing these checks? And I'm like, oh, they're like $100, $200 checks from like some local yards. I was like, I'm just waiting till it accumulates. And he's like, that is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. So, so like, just obviously I needed a lot of help in that particular area. But yeah, he came in, we put together, he built his own database in terms of like logistics tracking, scrap management software, essentially created himself.
Did you go looking for, because the people component of our business is really important. Did you go looking for somebody that had certain characteristics you didn't have, or did you just look for somebody that you thought would be a good person and then you just let them kind of fill it in? Like, what was your...
Yeah, well, this person, like obviously if we're going to be working together in an office, we have to connect and get along and have the same, share the vision and all that. And he just also happened to be, finance background, just, very organized, total opposite of me, really dialed in, wants to sit down and focus on work, where I want to be out and just bouncing around, talking to people, meeting people, putting together deals. That's my passion. That was kind of his. So it was a perfect marriage in that sense.
Good.
And so, and then after the second year, like we really needed someone to take a lot of the actual data tracking and logistical management off of his plate so he could focus specifically on finances, lending, typical traditional CFO type stuff. So that's when my old babysitter, not my old baby, my kid's babysitter, she just graduated college, and she was awesome. And she's someone who she had like a team of other babysitters working for her. So like
she was a hustler, man. I like it.
She was getting babysitting. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
She was getting babysitting jobs and then sending other babysitters there. And I was like, that's insane. I was like, I love that.
I love it.
I was like,
yeah.
So are you, and then she was like, she said it was a pain in the ass. She wanted to get out of it. I was like, oh my God, well, you got to come work here. And then so anyway, she came on board third, and she's been here ever. She's great. I mean, she keeps all of this running very smoothly from like a truck, scrap, logistical tracking standpoint. And
you're like, oh, you're getting tired of babysitting real kids, like now come babysit adults. Like, let's go.
Exactly. So at that point throughout this journey, I've had a lot of relationships with like larger demolition companies, national guys. So with conversations with some of them, like, the biggest, most frustrating thing for a lot of these guys was truly like the waste stream management piece of like their projects, especially big ones, like, coordinating, 300 truckloads of C&D waste, at the right time, along with, getting a great price for your scrap and having that picked up in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
Along with transparent tracking, payments on a weekly basis. Like, it's a huge, huge job, full-time job for anybody in that industry. So anyway, we had the bandwidth and didn't know shit about C&D, but I was like, dude, I'm your guy. I know everything about C&D. So sometimes you got to like little fake it till you make it. But I knew like we kind of had the infrastructure set up anyway for the scrap side of it. So we just applied that to other waste streams. And then kind of
goes back to, you had some of the building blocks in place that allowed you to leverage your existing blocks into basically being able to service the customer a little bit better than maybe a guy that was just buying scrap or only wanted to deal with one component. You took your blocks you already had and you said, okay, I only need one more block to complete the building. I can do that, right?
Totally. And yeah, we had the bandwidth to do it. And I just looked at it as a straight service, like a sales piece where I'll do that. We didn't make one dime off of it because it was just I didn't really know how to make money off C&D anyway. Not that I really wanted to, but it was more of like a service side to get in the door. So that really helped. And what that did too was accomplish a couple different things. Was those guys led us into pretty much every scrap market around the country. So we're able to start developing relationships out of state into a lot of different areas, which inevitably led to managing smaller, maybe demolition companies who know from these guys what we're doing for them. Yeah. And so, we really rode that wave for a little while. And then that, essentially while handling that, they have enough scrap to, theoretically send into mills on certain quantities and grades of material if they want to prepare it. So that's really what pushed our like brokerage side. So after we started moving a lot of demo weight into mills, a few in particular, we started getting some preferential pricing. And with the preferential pricing, when I'd be out there, I would just start stopping into like smaller yards or, anyone who might have smaller quantities of material to move into a mill. And that's where I'm like, let me throw you a number. And one thing led to another. That's how we acquired like a lot of, like mill brokerage accounts. So that was kind of that deal of it. And then we just kept, expanding and like, part of the, back to the local, like scrap hauling for manufacturers, like, it's all like, like the honeymoon phase when you do business with someone is great. But like, as we're growing, like the amount of equipment and trucks we're using from these other people is like, they're like, all right, like, come on now. Like, can you do any of this yourself? So like we had to, and we'd been thinking about that, become more independent anyway. You can't be totally relying on one person. And that wouldn't even be good for the customer as well. So at that point, we started taking all of our money and buying roll-offs, really nice new like E-Pack roll-offs, and just slowly building our fleet. I think we got about 120 of them now, just in like this Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky market.
Nice.
And they're so goddamn expensive, but I
Oh,
mean, totally
man.
necessary.
People, I've said it before, and if somebody asked me if I was to start from scratch, if I was to build a recycling company, how would I start? And I'd say I'd get a few roll-offs and some trucks, and I wouldn't even have a yard. I'd just start figuring out how to service existing accounts, right? But that doesn't come without an associated cost. You better have a good home for them roll-offs, and it better be, because they're not cheap, and that bill comes due, and you better be able to move them, and
if they're sitting in your yard, it's not a great thing. But
no.
But yeah, so then that, we one of our big customers we worked with in Cincy, demolition rigging company, had a whole fleet of roll-offs. So we struck a deal with them to start hauling our roll-offs. So that's how we tackled that without getting into the trucking business right out of the gate, along with the roll-offs. Which,
well, sounds like just throughout your process, you've been able to like find a way, right? And I think a lot of business is just trying to figure out a way to get something done. There's a lot of creativity that goes along with not having a lot of money or a lot of available, capital. And I touched on this at the Scrap Expo. It's like, I'm a big, if there's a will, there's a way guy, right? And it feels like that's probably why you and I probably see eye to eye on a lot of stuff as you dive into your story deeper. Is like, you were just a guy, or your team, whatever, that you're like, there's a way we can do this. Like, we'll figure it out, right? Like, we're going to partner, we're going to team up, we're going to buy a roll-offs, we're going to find some, trucks, like somebody else will have the power units, and we're just going to like find opportunities and then find a way to expand upon those.
So that's exactly right. Was just kind of, like, I think I had the destination in mind, and I think I had the drive and the desire to get there. But you do have to figure stuff out along the way. And so we were able to essentially move everything, under our umbrella, so we weren't tied to one yard, which helped our customers tremendously, because it put us in a position now where we could direct a specific grade with specific tonnages through a certain yard, and different people are better at different things, so we could start picking and choosing, like, where does your busheling go, where does your cut grades go, where are you shipping all your shred to, blah, blah, blah. So we're able to start like really getting creative with that and finding, the best avenues there, which benefits our customers and us. We can pay them a better price and still make money. And so, that eventually led us to landing a really large aluminum producer. And so that required us to make another partnership with a company out of Dayton, essentially to toll, house, mag, and load dump trailers. Because they do like 500,000-600,000 pounds of a 6,000 series every month, and that's and aluminum's a little easier because you're not there 24/7, 7 days a week, but still very important, large stamper. So, but that was like a big, a really big step up for us, was to be able to manage that, which we've done, knock on wood, really well for many years now. And then through that was like, kind of organic networking, where they told their friends out in Tennessee about us. I won't use names, but really large stamper wanted us to come in and evaluate, how they were doing things and so on and so forth. But, long story short, we ended up getting that account through, about a year and a half of conversations and planning. And
they showing up once a week. Hey, I'm here.
That was it. Well, they were out of town, so it was once a month. But but no, we ended up creating a really good program for them, and that required us to, in that particular area, middle of nowhere, how can we service this plant that does 2,000 plus tons of bush a month, another 400,000 pounds, 6,000 aluminum a month, and like roll offs, the whole nine. So we ended up partnering. So I went out there and just started like looking around, ended up meeting this husband, wife owned, essentially like, more of a landfill kind of a deal. They're about 3 miles away, really good people.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have a crazy idea. And before I even got there, we were just bullshitting, kind of hit it off. They were saying they wanted to get out of the residential trash hauling business. And, I got a crazy idea. What if you service an account for me? It's 3 miles away. It's going to require about 10 switch outs a day, 6 days a week. So we started that conversation, and, eventually what it led to was, we poured a, 10,000 square foot concrete slab. We put barrier blocks up, made bins and bays, put a Komatsu with a mag up there. We bought 25 new roll-offs for that particular location. And, then we just started servicing the account. They would bring it back there. We put a wheel loader up there. So they would essentially load our dump trailers. They basically service the account, bring it back, scale it, dump it in the whatever bins, the aluminum. They'd have to mag through it constantly to make sure whatever steel spillage and all that.
Yeah.
And then they'd wheel load dump trailers, multiple every day, going to a mill in Arkansas, and then the aluminum wherever we go. And yeah, we've been dealing with those guys for like 3.5 years now.
That's
been
awesome,
a great
man.
account.
Love it.
That was like one of my most favorite projects I think that we ever set up, because it was a crazy thought initially, but I was like, we've got to be able to figure this out. So
creativity, man. It's small business. It's hustlers they're creative. They find a way to figure shit out. And that's one thing I love about our industry as a whole is you're probably dealing with some of the more creative people around, right? Because there's some that are college educated, some that aren't, some that are, they come from other industries and they're like, man, this suits me well because I can make deals. I can find a way to do stuff that maybe isn't exactly traditional, but I can, I feel like that's one of the coolest things about our industry is you look around, which is why no scrapyard's the same. Why it's just a bunch of, it's everybody's kind of got their own way of skinning the cat. And whoever can be the most creative, and I want this to be like on record, like I think it's whoever can be the most creative also creates themselves the most opportunity in this industry, because just because somebody's doing it one way doesn't mean that has to be the way you do it. It just means that's how they found it to be successful, but there's another way, and kudos on you for figuring out, and being willing to talk to people and ask that crazy question. What do you think about,
well, it's funny because I sometimes have to remind the husband sometimes. When I first asked him, he's like, fuck no, who are you anyway? Get the fuck off my property. Hauling your scrap.
Guys just always
hauling your scrap. And I was like, no,
get out of here.
A good thing. I'll make it worth your while.
But
that was that was a good one. And they're great people. They love the work now. So it's like, so it's that's a great setup out there.
So tell me the transition. So you're basically broker and scrap. You now you've got your own, equipment to a certain extent as far as roll-offs and whatnot. Now you get your lay down yard. So then the power move of
not yet. So that led us into one more level. So so we're sending 4 to 6 dumps a day into a mill, right? And you're looking at how much money you're spending on that each year. I was like, why don't we start a trucking company and at least put 1 dump trailer there, and then maybe 2, and just see if we can figure this out ourselves. So, we had to learn the whole, none of us, like our CFO and I, have we never ran a trucking company, so we had to figure all that out, which was, starting from scratch and getting your DOT number, MC numbers, insurance. Then you got to start buying power units, which, we fucked up big time on the first one.
So what was the fuck up? Just, can you save anybody?
Well, the fuck up was, I was like, dude, that looks nice and it's cheap.
Oh.
do not buy a truck based on looks. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Okay. Good.
But it looks good sitting in a yard. We're probably going to scrap it soon, but I don't know. I might even keep that thing as a goddamn reminder.
Yes.
Not to do that again. But so no, that's how we ended up getting set up from the trucking side, which I knew we inevitably needed to do in-house, especially locally in like the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Dayton areas. So inevitably we got that set up. A lot of kinks to be worked out, but after a year or so, I think we had it fairly well dialed in. We went through a lot of different insurance carriers. We got our costs down. We found some good units. And then, we just started buying tri-axle roll-off trucks in preparation of the yard, which that fell in our lap. I mean, I've always been dying to get one, but, we just had, I got a call from one of the yards we do a lot of business with. And he's like, hey, you got a couple $1,000,000? I've got a scrap yard for you to buy. I started laughing. I was like, well, send me their info. I want to go look at it. So we went and looked at it, and it was we were probably like the 8th person to look at it. They were all kind of wheeling and dealing for it. So like I looked at it, and I got an environmental team out there within 48 hours and made him an offer technically within 72 hours of looking at it, and then we closed in like 4 days or something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And the only way, and we got it at a discount. And in fact, the reason we got the discount was so we were walking through the yard, and the guy we're buying it from, if he hears this, well, sorry, my friend, but we were walking through the yard, and he's like, well, you're gonna have to deal with this massive dirt pile over here. And I look at it, and this is from 60 years of scraping scrap metal into the dirt. And I was like, all right, well, if I'm gonna have to dispose of all that, like, we're gonna have to knock something off the price. So we ended up, negotiating whatever the price was. And long story short, we ended up pulling like 145 truckloads out of that dirt pile, I think.
That's a crazy pile, man.
Oh my God, it was crazy. And it was so dead. I mean, like, because you'd stand there and look, and it's just, I was like, I don't even think it's that much dirt. I mean,
did you screen it? Did you like have a screener? How'd you do it?
Yeah, we partnered with someone who brought in a screener. So screener, mag crane, loader, just screened and magged it, and then ultimately just loaded high sides and shipped them out. And it was just like months of that, 2 months of that straight every day. Just, I was like, this is a beautiful thing. So but that's how we ended up, like, the yard was a really fast decision, which kind of goes with that whole, smaller companies, like, you can do stuff like that. So we were able to do like the gut instinct, like we needed another yard because we've got another place in Northern Kentucky that is a lay down yard, but really wanted the next place to be a scrap yard. And that kind of fell in our lap. And, we closed on it in January, opened it in May of this year. And we're about 6 months in, and we had our first 200,000 pound day yesterday. So that was very exciting.
That's awesome, man.
Which is huge for a retail.
It's a different animal, right? In a good way, and I think that's it's not you're not brokering scrap. You're bringing it through. You're handling every ton, every pound. It's a different beast. I have a ton of respect for the brokerage side because it's something I've never really been a part of, right? Like, I don't buy scrap from scrap yards. I just don't. It's just not my wheelhouse. I run physical facilities, physical yards, collection, the trucking company and some other companies that we have, but that's my sweet spot. That's what I've always been comfortable with. That's where, that's what I like. But So I love talking to people like yourself. And I said you had an interesting story where you kind of went reverse. You backed yourself way into a yard versus the other way. Like a lot of guys like myself, they'll have physical yards and like, oh, we'll start a brokerage and we'll broker because we have customers and accounts.
Increase your
else.
pricing on your end, which makes sense. Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, if I could have pulled it off and bought a yard right out of the gate, I would have definitely went that route, I think.
Yeah.
Not that I regret any of the ways we've gotten to where we are. In fact, it's, like everything else we do is essentially what makes us money right now. Like the yard is like, we've got the vision and the dream for that. And I think we'll get there. But yeah, I mean, that was the obvious next step in our business. Now, if you talk to, David, our CFO, I think he's aged 2 years in the last 6 months with the amount of compliance and bullshit on that end of it. I'm like, just get it figured out. The door's open in May. All right.
Yeah.
But
it's another beast. It is a beast in and of itself. But I feel like the physical locations, there's going to be an exodus, and we've touched on this already, via previous conversation. But there's going to be an exodus of people in our business that are stay third generation, second generation, whatever, that don't want any part of it, right? I mean, there's a fair amount. I mean, just in my area, I could point out a few yards that are going to go away, right?
Yeah.
And because they'll probably get turned into some commercial deal, or somebody will come in and buy them and consolidate them out, right? And across the nation, that's happening. So I feel like whoever has the bandwidth or I say kind of like the stomach to deal with the compliance stuff and all that through a physical location, I feel like you're going to be at an advantage before too long, just because you can have a spot to bring material to. And like the advantage you have really is the flow and understanding how flow works. So your ability to now put a yard in and then be able to bring flow to it, sort it, separate it, redistribute it. I think there's it might not be the worst way for somebody to get into our industries, because start with looking for flow, then know that there's going to be people out there that are going to retire and they're going to need someone to come buy that yard. So if you've got a geography in mind, do a little research. Go see who's doing the zoo.
I agree. I don't think I could have started any other way personally, but it was a nice, it was a good way to get into it. And, once you end up here, we're not even directing like this massive flow of material to the yard. Like we could turn everything that way if we wanted to. And one day I think we probably will, but just through relationships and politics and, getting more efficient up at the yard and, logistics and location. I think that yard is going to probably be the first of many. And, I look forward to doing some other interesting deals with, like the larger manufacturers. Some of the really tough ones that are hard to service, I think are, it's simplistic in the sense that you don't have that much competition. It's very hard to do, but that is the positive of it.
What does the future look like for Millbridge?
I think it's good. We've probably grown, I would say, I'm sure now that we're at a certain level, this will not continue, but we've grown anywhere from like 100% to 300% almost every year for like 10 years. So, now that we've hit a certain point, we're already looking at the numbers and I'm like, I need another 200%, but that's obviously not realistic. But no, I mean, I love the trajectory we're on, and I like the diversification that we have, because, there's times where demolition management and brokerage is just raging. And then there's other times where, like our commercial account side of it really needs to like shoulder the workload, so to speak, for the company. And then there's times where they're all kind of hitting. So, one thing we're trying to do, after the yard, we're now We're actually looking to buy 3 more roll-offs by drivers, and we're going to really put an emphasis on, getting that yard location really humming. And we really want to we try to be really proactive versus reactive, which is like something I learned a while ago, and it really does make sense, because like, if all of a sudden you land something and you're so strapped for time, you can barely keep up, it's really hard not to hire the first person that comes along just because you need help, So I think, like, if you believe in, your destination, I just think you have to put things in place before you get there. And then once you get there, you're just ready for it. So that's kind of the process we're at, I think.
And you
like
guys
reorganizing at this point.
Another thing I've kind of just listening to your story now, you guys have not been afraid to invest back in your business, right? I think
it all goes back in.
I think that's something I want people to hear as well throughout this story. And I operate in a very similar manner. I haven't taken a distribution. I don't even know. I don't even know distributions exist.
It would be nice. It would be nice.
There will be a day. I tell people this, like, I'm not saying that this is the forever way, right? At least at this point, there will be a day, and you'll see it and you'll know, because I'll fucking let you know.
There will be signs.
Yeah, there will be signs. But I also want the opposite to be true, right? There will be signs when I'm not, because you'll see, like, what we're doing today, right? Like, we're investing in a whole nother business, right? We're going to build a monster of a tire recycling company. I mean, we're in the process of it right now. I got another couple that are in the cooker that I'm just steaming on right now. And the reality of it is, that's because I'm just full speed ahead. If I make a dime, I find a way to put 11 back in, right? That means I put my dime, or I put 15. I can go borrow 5 more so I can put it back in and build that. And it's not because I ever want to be the biggest of anything. I don't have any grand visions of being, 120 yards or the next king of scrap. Because I like a little bit of differentiation. I have a thing that if I make money and we can put it back to work and we can keep people working and we can get ahead of it, we're playing offense always, right? Like, I've heard it said, I think, like Gary V's, like, I want to win 117 to 110. Like, fuck defense. Like, if it works, great, but I want to win because I rang up the scoreboard,
Yeah.
Because I just kept staying on offense. And it feels like that's what you guys are doing. You're just on offense. You're playing offense. Like you said, get ahead of it. Look for people now. You may not need 3 roll-off drivers now. Maybe you only need 2. But if you can get 3 quality ones right now because trucking's slow or this industry's slow, and you can get them in the team and get them going, then when the time is right, like, you're going to be positioned equipment-wise, people-wise, that you can actually capitalize on the opportunity that's presented to itself while everybody else is looking for people, looking for equipment, trying to get shit figured out,
Yeah. It's no, it's a good point you make there, because throughout every year, if you do want to grow, you want to keep adding to your company, like, all of the money you're making, like, you have to just, it's going right back into it. And that's fine. I'm not in a position where, like, I feel the need to whatever. I think I've seen some of your posts where you're like, here's my new Ferrari, and it's a HRB baler or something like that. And
a lot of Ferrari. This time of them fucking are red and go very fast.
We just, we had to, we just bought a brand new triaxle for close to 300, and I'm like, oh, there is the Ferrari right there. But I enjoy this. Like, I enjoy building this infrastructure, especially starting from zero, and just seeing how, what we can really do with this thing over, give us another 10 years and let's see what it looks like, so.
Have you had a hard time or an easy time getting your team to commit that same philosophy to it, as far as financially saying, yeah, like we believe in the vision, we believe in what you're doing, and it's to be willing to kind of keep going all in with you. Has it been a mutual decision? Or?
Oh yeah. I mean, everyone has been fully on board. I've like from day one, they kind of know my delusions of grandeur, I would think, which is the vision on where I'd like to see this company one day. And there's you've got to take steps to that every single year. And yeah, everyone's fully on board and supportive. And because and I do try to listen, because there's times I'll come in and I'm like, here's what we're doing. It's like, whoa. You got to at least sleep on this, but but yeah, no, I think there's, it's interesting too. I think growing with a startup company too, there's like a lot of energy and excitement around it. Plus, when you accomplish some of these things and it works, it's very rewarding. And
I don't ever want our guys to lose our team. I just don't want them to lose that startup mentality, right? Yes. That's why I'm always like, to the next thing is like, when you're building a startup, like I don't pretend to be smart enough to be a tech startup guy. But any sort of startup, like a business from scratch, there's just that hunger, that passion to see what you're capable of, Mm-hmm. And there's a certain level of confidence that comes along with that. I think that was my post this morning I wrote about was, most, dreams die of lack of confidence, not competence, and that's how startups go, right? And that's how you get to that point but you have to keep that mentality. And that's like basically staying on offense. They think they go hand in hand. Startups are always on offense. They're like, what are they doing over there, or what does my customer need that I can build or do or fix or be better at than the next guy? Like right now, like I'll throw all hands on deck. Like let's go build that thing. Let's be better, right? We'll do it for cheaper. Like we're just trying to get reps, get practice, get our foot in the door, and opportunities, and like that type of mentality. If you're able to maintain that for an extended period of time, not 5 years. Not 3 years, not 10. Like if you can maintain that startup mentality for 20, 30, it's fucking crazy what you can build. Like
I agree.
It's crazy what you can build, but it's
hard. It's hard. I think you have to have that mentality because it is that hard. There are if you don't have that mentality, the stress alone would probably crush you, because there's when you go all in enough times, you better believe in yourself, or it's probably not going to work out in the end. So.
I remember when I bought a business in Indiana. I bought a pipe reline company, and I didn't know shit about reline pipe, and
take it till you make it, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I'll figure it out, And long story short, my wife looked at me one day and she's like, when is enough? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I love the hunt, and I love the kill. As much as but that hunt, that thing, and trying to get that business going and figured out and started back up and distributing pipe and looking, selling other distributors all over the country. I'm flying all over, and my wife's like, don't you have enough just at home to keep you busy? And I'm like, yeah, and here we are with 2 young kids, and I'm like,
can you imagine what this could be?
Yeah, I'm like, you see what I see? And luckily, and here my CFO is like, golly, we got all this pipe on the ground, and so long story short, my competitor called me like, hey, we see what you're doing, and do you guys want to sit down and have a conversation? And my bullheadedness was like, nope, I got you right where I want you.
Oh, we got him where we want him.
But my wife in the background and my CFO, hey, take that meeting.
You should probably hear him out. Yeah.
So I did, and I ended up selling it to him. We're partners now, but I ended up selling that business to my competitor. It was a good deal. We made a good deal, but a lot of it was I sit there and think, man, if I could have 5 more years at that thing, I could have, but at what expense?
Sure.
There's a balance in there. I see you have a picture of your kids behind you,
Oh yeah.
there's the other side. There is a balance in there to what we do. I mean, you'll find most people in our industry are family driven people. That's why we are what we are. But I can't help but think you're cut from a similar cloth.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it,
Yeah.
you go in and it's let's make sure everything's okay, and then what's next? I mean, it's kind of
So I want to end this, but give me someone that's been one of the, real influential person in your career over there. Well, two things. I got two questions. That's my first one, and I got another one I want to end on.
Gotcha. I would say, I mean, as far as influential and
in any aspect,
really learning about the business too, that would have to be, I'd give a shout out to Larry Beyer on that one.
Okay.
He passed away years ago, but yeah, just like a legendary scrap dude, like old school. The guy operated out of a trailer on his property, like this old little construction trailer, smoked cigars. The guy bought and sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of scrap a year out of that little trailer. And I mean, could have built a palace if he wanted to, but just totally that style, and knew everything there is to know about scrap, and being able to learn from him and see his methods and how he conducted himself, I would think was definitely the most impressionable thing.
That's awesome.
Out of anyone I've met in this industry. So
when people think of Millbridge and they think about your company, I mean, what do you want them to what do you want them to know?
Really just, customer service. It's really our, it's our main focus every day. I would like to argue and say that we're probably the easiest people to get a hold of, especially if there's a problem. So, that's probably the biggest thing I hang my hat on is, if you call me at, if there's a plant issue and I get a call at 3 a.m, my wife will be pissed, but I'll answer the phone. But yeah, no, I think we're easy to work with. We're very innovative. We went with all the roll-offs here that we put into manufacturers. We put GPS and cameras in all of them, so we can monitor right here at the office fullness levels. If there's any, whatever, if any sort of non-conforming material makes its way into a container that would be a massive downgrade, we can be proactive and send them the pictures, ask them to remove it if they want to, and things like that. So we just purchased a new scrap software program. We're really trying to move along with the times, I would say. So as we grow, we want to be as technically sophisticated, as well as not forgetting who our customers are. Love it. The main message.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate it. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you, Matt? What's the best way?
Best way is email or phone, just matt@millbridgemetals.com. And then phone, you can call. I'll put it out there on mine. Call mine. It's 513-259-5426. Don't call me at 3 though. If we have
unless you're my customer.
Unless you're an existing customer, we'll talk, but it better be good.
If you're just asking me what's the price of HMS this month, I'm gonna voicemail your ass.
Can I get an extra $5? That's right.
All right, man. I appreciate you sitting down and having this conversation with me. If you guys want to get a hold of Matt, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your month, and we'll talk soon.
Pleasure.
All right. Take care.
See you, brother.
All right.